This is our separation techniques progress quiz 1. This is dealing with topics 1, 2 and 3 in our Caboodle scheme of work. The first slide is all about words to do with sol, which is really about dissolving and forming a solution. So let's have a look through the answers. When we have copper sulfate dissolving in water, we make a solution. We have potassium chloride, which is another type of salt, dissolving in water. The water, the liquid, is acting as a solvent. The maximum mass of a substance that dissolves in 100 grams of water is what we call the solubility. That's the amount of a substance which will dissolve in 100 grams of water. A solution is formed when we take a solute, in this case sodium nitrate, and a solvent, water, and we dissolve the solute in the solvent. If we have the maximum amount, then we have filled up our solution and therefore it is saturated. Lead nitrate is an example of a salt, and when it dissolves, it is going to be the solute. Generally, when one substance dissolves in another, then the first substance is the solute. Silver nitrate is something we can dissolve in water, and therefore it is soluble, and sand is insoluble, and that's why it remains separate from the water when you're at the beach, for example. Let's have a look at the next slide. We've got 100 grams of copper chloride and 100 grams of water. We're going to stir them together. Now we're told that the solubility is 73 grams per 100 grams. So what that means is that we are able to dissolve 73 grams of copper chloride in 100 grams of water. Well, we've added 100 grams of copper chloride, and we're asked how much remains undissolved. Well, this is where our calculator might be handy. Let me just clear it. Okay, we began with 100 grams of copper chloride. We have dissolved 73 grams of copper chloride, and so we're left then with 27 grams of copper chloride, which does not dissolve. Okay, now we've got some statements again about solubility, so let's just have a look here. We've got cesium fluoride, which will dissolve 370 grams per 100, and then compared, for example, to thallium sulfate, which will only dissolve 5. Let's have a look. We're looking at aluminium sulfate. Okay, let's have a look then. Aluminium sulfate has a solubility of 38. What that means is if we add 38 grams or above, then we will form a saturated solution. In this case, we're adding 50 grams. 50 grams is certainly greater than 38 grams, which means this is true. The maximum mass of lead nitrate that dissolves in 100 grams of water is 55. Let's have another look. Well, we've got a solubility of 55, which means that the maximum amount of lead nitrate that I can dissolve in 100 gram water is 55 grams. Let's look at the bottom. Cesium fluoride. Cesium fluoride is the most soluble substance in the table. Well, as you can see, comparing all these numbers, it's definitely the one where we can dissolve the most in there, and therefore it is the most soluble. If we add 300 grams of cesium fluoride to 100 grams of water and stir it, you will make a saturated solution. Well, in this case, we are under our maximum limit, and so therefore this is not true. We still have 70 grams that we could dissolve in there. And lastly, thallium sulfate is 11 times more soluble. Let's have a look. Thallium only will dissolve 5 grams, whereas lead nitrate will dissolve 55. That actually means that lead nitrate is 11 times more soluble than thallium sulfate. Here's our last ones. We want to do some numbers. Okay, so we could use the calculator for this if you like. Let's have a look. The mass of solution made by dissolving 112 grams of potassium hydroxide in 100. Well, all we're doing there is simply adding the two things together. Mass is conserved, and so therefore we will have 202 grams at the end of 212 grams at the end of it. Sorry. If we want to make 200 grams of a solution, and we've already got 100 grams of water, then we will have to put 100 grams of magnesium bromide in there. The solubility of barium chloride at 20 degrees is 36 per 100 grams. If we add barium, okay, so we're adding 50 grams. Now the solubility is 36, which means I can dissolve a maximum of 36 grams. So I'm left with 50 take away 36, which is going to be 14 grams. The solubility of lithium iodide is 165 grams per 100 grams. if I add 170 grams of lithium iodide. Okay, very nice. Oh, this is quite a nice one. Difficult question here. Let's get the calculator up. Okay, so we're going to do this very gently. We've got 170 grams. Yeah, and we're going to add that to 100 grams of water. So our mass, if this was all dissolved, would be 270. What we're going to do here is we're going to stir it to make sure as much dissolved as possible, and then we're going to filter it. Now we have to check here, how much are we going to filter out? Well, we're going to filter out anything which does not dissolve. Well, how much doesn't dissolve? We've got 170 grams and our solubility is 165 grams. So that means there's going to be 5 grams which are filtered out. So we're actually left with 265 grams as the mass of our solution. Please have a look at your answers, check them compared to mine, and then move on to the next progress quiz.